Have you ever met someone who almost never argues? Not because they can't defend themselves, but because they simply don't engage. You've probably seen it happen. Someone says something provocative, even insulting, and instead of firing back they just observe. There's no visible anger, no defensive posture. They listen, maybe nod, and then either respond calmly or say nothing at all. It's almost unsettling how composed they remain while everyone else is ready for battle. At first glance it might seem like passivity. Like they're avoiding conflict because they're afraid or simply don't care enough. But psychology suggests something far more intentional. This isn't someone who's checked out. It is someone who's made a deliberate choice. They've recognized that most arguments don't lead anywhere productive, and they've developed the self-control to step back rather than step in. That takes practice. That takes awareness. And honestly, it takes a kind of strength most people don't realize exists. Most arguments aren't really about facts. They're about identity, ego, and the need to be right. Think about the last heated debate you witnessed. Was it really about the topic at hand, or was it about who gets to feel superior? Who gets to win? We attach our sense of self to our opinions so tightly that when someone disagrees with us, it doesn't feel like they're questioning our logic. It feels like they're questioning our worth, our intelligence, our value as a person. And that's when things get ugly. When someone challenges our opinion, it can feel like they're challenging our worth. That's why arguments escalate so quickly. The brain interprets disagreement as threat. Neuroscience shows us that when our beliefs are questioned, the same areas of the brain light up as when we're in physical danger. Our amygdala activates. Our heart rate increases. Our body prepares for combat, even though we're just sitting at a dinner table or scrolling through comments online. The reaction is primal, automatic, and for most people completely unconscious. People who rarely argue have learned to interrupt that process. Somewhere along the way, they've developed the ability to notice that automatic reaction and choose not to follow it. It is not that they don't feel the initial surge of defensiveness. They do. But they've created space between the trigger and the response. That pause, that tiny moment of awareness, is where everything changes. Instead of reacting, they reflect. Instead of defending, they decide whether it's even worth engaging. Research on emotional regulation shows that these individuals are better at separating information from identity. They can hold an opinion without becoming that opinion. They can hear criticism of their idea without hearing criticism of their character. This is a crucial distinction that most people struggle with. When you can separate your sense of self from your beliefs, disagreement becomes far less threatening. It's just information being exchanged, not warfare being waged. A disagreement doesn't feel like an attack, so there's no urgency to defend. They don't need to win to feel secure. Their self-worth isn't on trial every time someone has a different perspective. This allows them to engage with ideas more freely, more openly. They can actually consider what the other person is saying without their ego screaming in the background. And because they're not desperate to prove anything, they can afford to be curious instead of combative. This doesn't mean they don't have opinions. Often it means the opposite. Their beliefs are so internally grounded that they don't require constant reinforcement through conflict. Think about it. If you truly believe something, why would you need to convince everyone else? People who argue constantly are often trying to convince themselves as much as others. But when your convictions come from deep internal reflection rather than external validation, you don't need the world to agree with you to feel certain. They understand that not every misunderstanding needs correction, and not every provocation deserves a response. Someone gets a fact wrong at a party. Do you interrupt to correct them? Someone mischaracterizes your position online. Do you write a paragraph explaining why they're wrong? People who rarely argue have learned to ask themselves, what's actually at stake here? Will correcting this person change anything meaningful? Or will it just satisfy my ego for a moment? Most of the time the answer is clear. There's also a cost-benefit awareness at play. Arguments consume cognitive and emotional energy. Every time you engage in a heated debate, you're spending resources you could use elsewhere. Your focus narrows. Your stress increases. Your mental clarity diminishes. And what do you get in return? In most cases, nothing changes. The other person doesn't suddenly see your point. You don't feel better. You've just burned energy for the sake of burning it. People who rarely argue have done the math, consciously or not, and realized it's almost never worth it. They raise stress hormones, narrow perception, and rarely lead to genuine change. Cortisol floods your system. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thinking, gets suppressed while your emotional centers take over. You literally become less capable of clear thought the more heated an argument becomes. And after all that physiological chaos, how often does someone actually change their mind? Almost never. You've stressed your body, clouded your mind, and accomplished nothing. That's not strategic. That's just exhausting. People who argue less recognize that most conflicts are circular. They don't resolve. They repeat. The same arguments happen over and over, just with different words. Politics, relationships, family dynamics. The patterns are remarkably consistent. If you've had the same argument with someone 3 times and nothing changed, what makes you think the 4th time will be different? Those who avoid arguments have noticed this pattern. They've seen the loop for what it is and chosen to step out of it rather than keep running in circles. Psychologists refer to this as selective engagement. Instead of reacting automatically, these individuals choose where their attention goes. Not everything deserves your focus. Not every opinion requires your input. Not every wrong statement needs your correction. By being selective, they preserve their energy for what actually matters. They can invest deeply in meaningful conversations while letting trivial disputes pass by unnoticed. This isn't avoidance. It's prioritization. It's wisdom. They ask themselves, often unconsciously, is this worth my peace? And most of the time the answer is no. Peace isn't passive. It's a resource. It's valuable. And once you understand how rare and precious inner calm actually is, you stop trading it for petty victories. You stop sacrificing your emotional equilibrium to prove someone wrong on the internet. You stop letting other people's agitation determine your internal state. This question becomes a filter, automatically screening out what doesn't serve you. Interestingly, people who rarely argue are often excellent listeners. Because they're not busy preparing counterpoints, they actually hear what others are saying. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. Their mind is racing ahead, formulating rebuttals, finding flaws, preparing their next attack. But when you're not in combat mode, you can actually be present. You can hear not just the words but the meaning behind them, the emotion, the context. And sometimes, that deeper understanding reveals that there wasn't really a disagreement to begin with. This allows them to respond thoughtfully when it truly matters, and stay silent when it doesn't. There's a massive difference between someone who never speaks up and someone who speaks up strategically. The person who rarely argues isn't avoiding all conflict. They're choosing which battles are worth fighting. And when they do engage, it's with intention, clarity, and purpose. That makes their words carry more weight. People listen because they know it means something when this person decides to speak. Silence in this context isn't surrender. It's restraint. It takes more strength to hold back than to lash out. Any fool can react. It takes discipline to pause. It takes maturity to recognize that not responding is sometimes the most powerful response of all. This is especially true when someone is trying to provoke you. They want the reaction. They're fishing for it. And by refusing to take the bait, you maintain your power while they waste theirs. That's not weakness. That's control. With experience comes the realization that being right doesn't always improve relationships, and proving a point doesn't always improve outcomes. You can win every argument and still lose what matters. You can be technically correct and still damage trust, create resentment, and push people away. There's a difference between being right and being effective. Mature people understand this. They've learned, often through painful experience, that relationships are more valuable than being validated. Connection trumps correctness. Sometimes it just creates distance. Every argument is a small withdrawal from the relationship bank account. Every time you prioritize winning over understanding, you build a wall. It might be invisible at first, but over time those walls become barriers. People stop sharing with you because they know you'll debate them. They stop being vulnerable because they know you'll critique them. And eventually you're right about everything and connected to no one. That's not a victory. That's isolation. So these individuals choose calm over control. They understand that you can't control what others think, say, or believe. You can only control your response. And when you choose calm, you're choosing to remain grounded regardless of external chaos. You're saying that your inner state matters more than winning external battles. This is a profound shift in priorities. It's moving from a paradigm of domination to a paradigm of self-mastery. And self-mastery is infinitely more powerful. They understand that inner stability is more valuable than external victory. External validation is fleeting. The trophy of being right lasts only until the next argument. But inner stability is a foundation you build once and benefit from constantly. It is there when you wake up. It's there in difficult conversations. It's there when everyone disagrees with you and you're still okay. That kind of stability doesn't come from winning debates. It comes from knowing yourself deeply enough that other people's opinions don't shake you. In a culture that rewards loud opinions and constant debate, not arguing can look like weakness. We're taught to speak up, stand our ground, fight for what we believe in. Social media amplifies this. The algorithm rewards engagement, and engagement often means conflict. The person with the hottest take gets the most attention. The most combative voice gets the most followers. So when someone refuses to participate in that game, it's confusing. They must not care. They must not have strong beliefs. They must be weak. But that interpretation is fundamentally wrong. But psychology suggests it's often a sign of emotional strength. The ability to remain centered even when others are trying to pull you into chaos. Emotional strength isn't about how loudly you can argue. It's about how steady you can remain when provoked. It is about maintaining your values when others are losing theirs. It is about staying grounded when the world around you is spinning out. That takes real fortitude. That requires deep self-awareness and constant practice. The person who can remain calm in a storm isn't weak. They're anchored. If you've ever been told you're too quiet in conflicts, this might be why. You're not too quiet. You're strategically silent. You've realized that most conflicts don't need your voice to resolve, and adding it would only complicate things. You've understood that your peace is more important than proving your point. You've developed the wisdom to know when engagement serves a purpose and when it's just noise. That's not a flaw. That's discernment. And if others don't understand it, that's okay. You're not being quiet for their approval. And if this resonated, like this video and subscribe to the channel. We explore the psychology behind behaviors most people misunderstand. There's so much beneath the surface of human behavior that seems simple but is actually deeply complex. The quiet person isn't weak. The non-argumentative person isn't passive. And the person who chooses peace over being right isn't surrendering. They're operating from a different level of awareness. If you want to understand more of these misunderstood behaviors, you're in the right place.